Fire scene investigators sifting through the remains of fires know the truth.
Wildfires can get big, really big.
But embers, as small as this, are the biggest threat to your home.
Embers can be carried more than a mile from the fire.
Even homes located blocks away from the actual flame front are still vulnerable to complete destruction.
The biggest concern is not the dramatic wall of fire, but the embers blowing in the wind that often enter through external vents and catch fire to combustible things stored in your attic. And so your home can burn from the inside out.
Air vents suck the flying red-hot embers into your attic space.
How can you protect your home from the threat of flying embers?
You know, people think that they have no control over this, that they can't do anything, and that they're just going to end up a victim in this whole thing. And it's just not the reality. The reality is that, you know, there are simple things that people can do to strengthen their home against destructive forces. It is an idea who I believe its time has come. And, you know, I've been working on it for going on 7 years now, but the big fires back in 2007. I
had to evacuate, literally with the clothes on.
911 call. I had to evacuate, and that was a teary moment. I'll tell you, driving away from the house and looking at the house in the rearview mirror, and you know, wondering if we're ever going to see our home again. You know, you load what you can get with whatever time you have available. Load it up in the cars, and everybody hops in, and you can't even drive together. It's like, okay, we got to fill 2 cars worth of stuff, and wife and kids in this one, and me in the bulk of the rest of the stuff in the other one, and then go and try and find somewhere, and you get caught in the traffic, and you know, there's smoke all around you, and ashes is falling out. I mean, I've been living this thing, you know, every time the fires pop up around here, and I do feel an anxiety around it. Like I have to make this and get it where it's in the public domain, where this is something that can help people. So I get up every day feeling a real urgency to get this product out into the marketplace and you know, give people in homes a fighting chance in the
There was a huge fire that had come through and getting themselves over to where they could fight this fire. Again, we thought the fire was out, and here we are, literally the last. There were other people that were going to come save us and take care of this fire and do it for us. But the reality was that we all went to bed thinking this fire was gone.
Not just a trauma to people that are exposed to it, it's a trauma to our natural world. You know, when you're burning off all of this cover, all of this shrubbery, and then nothing but weeds and things that are so susceptible to fire in the first place, you know, that's usually the first stuff that grows back, which means it's setting itself up for a whole other fire again. So, you know, in the process of living through this and experiencing this whole fire danger several times now, I've learned that there's all these dominoes that once they start falling and a fire gets started, it's just a runaway train hauling a...
And on a canyon, beautiful property. We had watched the fire kind of come around the corner over through the night. You know, you see the glowing flames off in the distance, and they had come around a hill, and we saw them kind of go away. And we thought, oh, that's great, they took care of it. Well, that's kind of what we thought. They will take care of it. And the fact is, there was no they taking care of it for us. There was a huge fire that had come through a canyon that at that point we just couldn't see. And having not dealt with fire before, we just magically thought that there were other people that were going to come save us and take care of this fire and do it for us. But the reality was that we all went to bed thinking this fire was gone because it was pitch black and we couldn't see it anymore. But it was down in the canyon, wiggled its way through the canyon up to our home, and my 3-year-old at the time had woken me up, and she said, you know, I can't sleep, I think there's something in the backyard. And we looked in the backyard, and there's this, you know, 20-foot wall of flame. And within moments we all raced and got out of the house as fast as we could, as 20-foot flames were, you know, probably 50 foot from the house. The neighbors had evacuated. They were all out. So they had been watching the fire. No policemen or firefighters had come to our door block that were still in our homes. Yeah, it was that It was that moment as a man, you know, you can relate, I'm sure, where you have to decide who you want to be in that moment, you know, and it was, for that moment for me, it was take care of my family. And the house was all shut up at that point. So you mentioned like windows and doors and all that, everything was completely closed. So I think our house did actually burn from an ember, is what they said. The wind was blowing toward our house through the canyon, and ours was the only one taken. It was, you know, horrific and something you never, to help somebody now, it's what we want to do. We want to explain how to do it, give them any bit of knowledge that we can pass on, such that it would bring them comfort or give them more education. I learned a lot. I mean, I learned that you know, there are things that you can do ahead of time that would mitigate your risk, like clearing the brush away from my home. To set me and my family up to succeed, I waited for that other somebody to take care of us. And really the burden and the responsibility fell on me, and I just didn't take care of it. I would say make a bullet list of the things that your home needs to be as safe as possible. So in our case, it was very preventable. What we could have experienced, what could have been different had I followed just some really easy bullet point steps. Plan on investing the time and just a little bit of resources. It wouldn't have cost us much to make our home safer. You know, I thought that a big fire had to come basically take over my house. And again, that's not how fire works at all. It generates its own kind of heat and its own kind of microclimate. It will generate a force to push an ember off in the distance, and where that ember lands is where the new fire begins. And I literally had no concept of that. I didn't understand that at all, that principle. And so the way the fire got to my house was the embers were way off and actually got pushed into the foliage and into the yard and up into the rafters of my home. I think if somebody understands that concept, they can take some really easy steps. It wasn't difficult. What I could have done wasn't difficult. So when you showed me the Ember Deflector system, I thought to myself, this is something that could have easily saved my home. This is something with a very minimal investment could have been something that could have protected my home in a way that I didn't even know I needed at the time. And now that I'm armed with this new information, I would have gladly spent whatever it takes to get this done. I can tell you with an Ember Deflector system, as a professional real estate agent, I would show any potential buyer a home and I would advise them this is something that would raise the value of this home. It's like having another layer of protection, another insurance policy on your home to protect it in the event of a fire. And it doesn't change the aesthetic value of the home in any way. And I love the feature that when many homeowners are away, they can actually protect their home by having this feature on their telephone where they can put the Ember Deflector to closed position. It gives them the peace of mind they can go on vacation, they can go, you know, visiting and go see relatives somewhere else and know that their home's protected. On this last round, where we just had our recent Carlsbad fires, and we also had Harmony Grove fires that were happening at the same time. So I had left the home, we evacuated, and we actually wanted to go back. We didn't have the time or the wherewithal to think about, okay, not only am I going to grab my family and my, you know, animals and all our possessions that we can at least fit in the car and take off, not only do I need to do that, but I need to protect this home as best I can before I go away from it, because I won't be able to come back. It's the evacuation where you go and then they don't let you back to your home. So to have had that feature on my phone would have been amazing. So I firmly believe that that could have been something that I would have utilized in that moment. So I wholeheartedly believe in educating beforehand. Having knowledge would have saved our home, bottom line.
Deflector system. The Ember Deflector system protects the vulnerable parts of your home, the various holes that are all over your home. These vents make your home vulnerable to these destructive forces. You never know when these fires are going to strike. Oftentimes, you could be trapped in your home and you would have to shelter in place. Sometimes you can't get home because the fires have trapped you on the freeway. We offer people the ability to remotely access their Ember Deflector system, closing these vents off to protect the vulnerable parts of your home against embers, fire, and smoke. Give your home and your family a fighting chance by using the Ember Deflector system to protect your vents.